meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay. Tēnā koa. Ai te
Mātauranga
kia
marama,
kia
whātaki nānau,
Katoa, tū
tū
maia,
maia, tū
kaha,
aroha
atu,
aroha
mai,
tātou
i
i
a
tātou
tātou katoa.
kitoa.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. All right, a warm welcome to everybody here this afternoon. Apologies if I seem a little breathless at times. I am now part of the COVID club. Just trying to keep it all together, so we'll be fine. So we're just going to start with the normal runnings of the meeting. So just note that it is being live streamed and recorded on the board's YouTube channel. So people can either watch that as we go, or they can go back and watch that at a later time. I'm not sure. Yes, I think we don't have any people in here yet. Is that right? No. So anyway, we will be having people pop in and out throughout the meeting today. Big welcome to obviously all of our board members and staff. It is great to have you all here. And if we could just remember to keep ourselves muted if we're not talking, and then unmute yourselves when you would like to say something. And also, if we could try and remember to use the hand button, just because it's hard to see if we're not, but if you forget and want to wave your arms around, that's fine. I'm sure I'll see as well. Just a reminder that our report that was the Hagley Park North Tennis Court floodlights, that has been pulled from the agenda today, but will be on one in the near future, I am sure. All right, so YouTube, our live stream has already started. Yeah, so we can kick off now after those reminders. It is really great to have you all here this afternoon. I do have one apology from Jackie, who is going to try and make it, but she's super, I think they're a little overwhelmed with all the COVID stuff happening at work, so she's going to make an effort to get here this afternoon as well. Can I have a mover for apologies? We'll go Michelle, then Tim. I think that was the fastest.
It was like pretty funny.
It's like we battle. I like it. Okay. So I'm moved by Michelle, seconded by Tim, and all in favour. I'm guessing that's a yes because everyone popped their hands up. Do we have any declarations of interest for today's meeting? No, well, good, fabulous. Confirmation of previous minutes. Now I've just got one amendment, and that was around just the wording of the Dawson Street presentation that we had last week. So just fixing that wording up to reflect exactly what was said in the meeting. So I will I'll read out what we had, and then I'll let you know when I'm reading the amendment. So Ms. Simone Pearson outlined to the board that the area to be surfaced is relatively small, measuring approximately 455 metres squared, owing to the street's short length and narrow width. 7 paved brick areas and 5 planter boxes reduce the area by 30%. This is the amendment, or the addition into the writing. In 2015, approximately 20% of the street, Kilmore Street northern end, was resurfaced in asphalt. Then going back on to Our wordings, Ms. Pearson has spoken to the majority of Dawson Street residents. This is another small amendment, and all owners, that's just adding that bit in, who support the street's function as a pedestrian walkway and for the resurfacing to be continued to be asphalt. So does that make sense to everyone? So it's just adding in a couple of extra bits that were said at the meeting, but this didn't make it into our minutes that are obviously not verbatim, but just wanted to catch a sense of it. Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, in that discussion, where I asked that council seek quotes from other suppliers, it was specifically suppliers that specialised in smaller jobs or smaller streets.
Yeah. Did you want to amend that then as well, Tim?
Yeah, I would like to, because I'd like that point captured. I said it a couple of times, so it'd be nice to capture.
Absolutely. So Arahanui, is that able to be captured? Sorry, I'm not sure who's making
Yes.
the
Yeah, so Jane's taking the notes, and she'll make a note of that. Faye's here also.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Jane, and hi, Faye.
Hello. If we make a change along the lines that it was clarified that the quotes to be obtained were from suppliers specialising in small streets. Is that right, Tim?
Yes.
Thank you.
Or can I just suggest that that's in small areas, because it's not necessarily streets. Suppliers, they might be doing driveways, footpaths, those areas where asphalt's really common. Yeah. I think one of the things to note is that it's and it's there in sort of one of the paragraphs there, is that whole, it's pedestrian rather than street, and focusing on that. It's like a small laneway rather than a street with no footpath. It's so
cool. All right, so if we are happy with those amendments, do I have a mover for the minutes if there's nothing else? We've got Jake and Daryl. Cool, all in favour?
Aye.
Fabulous, thank you. That is perfect. Okay, so we are now moving on to our public forum, and we have Chris with us. Fantastic. Chris, would you like to pop your camera and mic on? So Chris will be here to, oh, there you are. So Chris is here to speak to us today about pedestrian links from Addington to Central City. So it's great to have you with us today, Chris. And just to let you know that we are actually obviously live streaming this, and you'll have 5 minutes. And if you would like to leave time for questions, I'm sure that would be really appreciated. I know you've put a lot of work into this, so thank you so much for being here with us.
It's all right. Well, cool. So I assume you've got the one pager that I had written up, and there was also a little walkthrough that Liz said she was going to load up. So have you seen both of those documents?
Yes, we have those with us.
Cool. So I'm not sure if there's a lot more I can add. The picture behind me in virtual space is what the Chinese manufacturer does with aluminium to make it like a little planter box seat thing. So, you know, something like that may inspire the thought, but really it's this idea that the population in my community is going from individual places with one elderly retired person in it, and they're going into care or leaving this mortal coil, and their house gets knocked over and replaced with townhouses and a whole lot of people. And so I would imagine the population of my community is going to quadruple in the next little while. And it would be nice if they would choose active transport rather than trying to get into town otherwise. And this is one of the shortest ways to pick up the park. It's 650 metres. There's already a really nice little walkway that meanders through Addington down and terminates at the cemetery. So it would be a case of just picking that up and running it straight down Selwyn Street to the park. And then from there you can, pick up into the city or go for a loop around the gardens or whatever. So that's the idea in a nutshell. It's really about just trying to make this journey a little more visually interesting for people moving. It takes you about 15 minutes to walk down here. So, there's already little remnants of garden and things along the way. So it would really just be putting a bit of a cohesive plan around doing all of that. Now, I understand that you guys really only deal up to Moorhouse Ave, and then it's actually the council that would make call about the section we're looking at now from Moorhouse down to the park. But we're just trying to get a conversation started, really. So questions, I suppose.
Cool. Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate that. Board members, do we have questions for Chris? Michelle.
Managed to unmute myself. Hey, thank you, Chris. Thank you. Of course, that is my stomping ground as well. And it's so great to see the kind of innovations that you're talking about. And and obviously we're at the beginning stages, but really appreciate the thinking that you're doing around the area, because certainly Selwyn Street is a street that is it's like a bit of a motorway really at times. So I guess just want to thank you and say that I can see some real benefits to it, but that also we're in the early stages. So I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Michelle. We've got Sarah, then Jake.
Good. Thanks so much, Chris. I mean, it's there's lots of really good research which shows that if an area is more visually interesting and attractive, people are more likely to walk through it. It doesn't seem as far when you've got interesting things to look at. But also the pedestrian route, some of those streets are quite wide to cross and very car friendly and cars hoon around them. So I'm wondering if you've thought about a mix of things. So some things that council can do, but maybe other things that the community can do if it's enabled by council, if you like. So lots of pop-ups and art and those kind of things get done by community with funding from council, that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if there's a community group that we could work with on some of those more tactical things, while maybe we get some advice on things like pedestrian refuges for those wide streets.
Yeah, I reached out to Gap Filler because I figured they would have a bit of a line into maybe some artists that would be interested. Their position's been that they like the idea, but it's not really their patch. They see themselves more in the central city. So and I've gone back to them, just sort of said, well, are there any suggestions in terms of people who are known to them in that community that might be interested in picking it up? Haven't heard back at this stage.
Yeah, I just wondered if you knew any other people in your local community who could get together and be that kind of local group.
I haven't started doing that sort of stirring yet, but there's the time bank, there's the whole operation out of Manuka Cottage, and I'm sure that there are some people there that are obviously community minded that might be inspired by this thought. And then, of course, there's the work that consultation work that's happening on the other side down Bryme Street with Transit New Zealand and or whatever they've become now. I can't think of their new name. NZTA. Yes. So and what's being sort of worked down there. So there's a bit of thinking happening and around, but this is really my first conversation and trying to connect it up.
No, that's great. So there's also our board also has some quick and easy to apply for funding for some things, so I think we've lifted up to $500, and it might be that it's able to help you get something off the ground as a project in the area to work with us on doing something that builds community and also enables more active travel. So might be something we can continue a conversation on.
Yeah, cool. No, that'd be great.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah. We were at our 5 minutes, but we've got Jake and then Michelle again.
Oh, I'll be real quick. Thanks, Chris. We got there in the end. It's always a bit of a challenge when you're dealing with borderline city fringe stuff and the delegated authorities. I was just more a suggestion to the board, really, whether we could inquire with Claire Piper or whoever's running the Innovating Streets team to see whether this could be a priority, because obviously partly it's about what we do, but also when communities are willing and want to see stuff happen in their backyard, that's half the challenge. And I guess separately, adjacent to that is, I think the next step for you while we're doing that, Chris, is to talk to Manuka Cottage as you've suggested and get them fired up as well. And that's, we're halfway there.
Yeah, well done.
Cool. Thank you, Jake. And Michelle?
So just to add to the suggestion, Hagley College has got a really vibrant sort of arts and culture side, so there could be some opportunities to work with them. So I just thought I'd throw that one in there because part of it is right along by where they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's cool. Just one other thought. I also, in that one pager, I identified Antigua Street. I put in a submission on that as well because the landscaping plan that I saw basically had, the cycleway is their focus, and that's fine. But the walking option is basically spend 2 blocks walking past a giant car park, and I think we can probably do a little better than that. So that's what my submission basically says. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate you coming and starting this conversation with us today. I know you've obviously been in touch with Jake as well, but really good to get it in front of the rest of the board too. So look forward to finding some really positive solutions moving forward, and we will be in touch. But thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Cool. So then Pippa, the person you mentioned, are you able to fire on some contact details or something there?
Claire Piper. I think our staff might be able to reach out to her first and maybe make that, my brain is really dead, sorry, make that introduction for you.
That would be awesome.
We can definitely do that.
Yeah, no, if you can start that ball rolling, and I'll start with the cottage. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Cheers.
Ciao. Okay, so board members, we are moving on to deputations by appointment, and we have Mark Gerard with us, and he will be speaking to clause 11, which is Wooden Park, the former caretaker's residence and grounds. So we've got Mark with us. Hi, Mark.
Hello there.
How are you? It's good to see you. Just to remind you, Mark, that you have 10 minutes today. And if you'd like questions, then please leave some time for those. And also, we are live streaming this as well. So it will be available after on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
You've been with us. Fire away.
Chairs, councillors and committee board members, thank you for granting me this opportunity to make this deputation, which is in reference to the Wooden Park former caretaker's residence and grounds. Firstly, I'd like to make sure that I'm making this deputation as a community board resident. I have deep concerns with the report's recommendation and the logic and processes of the decision making of this report. My concerns are the following. There was no public engagement with residents groups about the possible future use of this former caretaker's residence. It has been my experience that there are groups looking for a venue. It would be good civic practice to attempt to actively engage and work with the community before a decision to demolish is made. 2, I can find no attached report or reference in the report that the council's own heritage team has made an assessment. I have checked with the heritage team and no council former caretaker residence aside from the botanical gardens has been scheduled on the council's district plan. Admittedly, 1940 houses such as these are humble, but we should at least have some protected before they all vanish. There's a number vanishing now. We may not have any left by the end of this decade. Buildings such as these are part of our collective heritage, and the council should be leading by example. My third concern, I can find no mention of the council's heritage strategy, Our Heritage, Our Taonga, in this report. Was the former residents assessed as possible heritage? The CC, as an owner, should be proactive and be leading by example. The fourth point, the existing building is the greenest building. I'm perturbed the former residence was allowed to sit unused, presumably to deteriorate, according to the report, since 2009. No active use sought or decision made about its future. Many residents would not consider this good practice. Accordingly, I'm formally requesting the Community Board decline any decision to demolish and instead proactively seek community engagement and input with the aim of making the former caretaker's residence available for community use. In addition, measures will need to be implemented to stop reported antisocial behaviour. Related to this, I request the Community Board seek a heritage assessment from the Council Heritage Team as the former caretaker's residence suitability for scheduling on the district plan. Finally, I note the Council has a heritage strategy, Our Heritage, Our Taonga. Could I request this Community Board send a communication that it expects in its reports that the Council staff be proactive where potential heritage may be involved, no matter how minor, and seek the advice and involvement of the Council Heritage Team. Thank you for listening to this deputation.
Cool, thank you so much. It's really good to have that information. Did we have any questions for Mark? I think, oh, yep, we've got Michelle with a hand up, then I think Jake.
So thanks for bringing, coming and speaking to this, and you obviously have done your homework, really appreciate it. Do you have any sense of, and take on board kind of the lack of consultation and the lack of reference to the heritage aspect, which is dear to our hearts on Community Board. Do you have any sense about some potential kind of usages for the building?
No, that's the issue is, heritage, most heritage advocates that I'm aware of, and certainly my position is a phrase called adaptive reuse, which the building could be adaptively reused for community use, which is was the former caretaker's residence. So it could be adaptively reused, sympathetically, of course. And the other issue, which I forgot to raise, in putting in its context, that I understand Woodham Park is actually a heritage park. So the building sits within its context, so it's important that since it's part of the context, that it's part of that one. Really, that's why I suggest that I'm proposing active public engagement of working with the community, and groups will come forward with ideas about what they propose, or maybe a group could express an interest. And it's really important to go to the community to ask that before you make that decision.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Jake, and then Darryl.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Obviously you're here as a community member, but equally you're a bit of an old hat when it comes to community or heritage issues. And I wanted to know from your experience as a community member around the costs of these projects. Often we get reports to divest these sorts of assets, and you, I'm sure, have seen when we haven't done that and the final costs. Do you have any reflections on that? And do you have any reflections on what demolition costs might look like?
No, I can't, but I would point out that my fourth point about a building sitting unused since 2009, where no active management is not a great use of an asset. We probably wouldn't have to spend so much money if it was actively being maintained. This is pretty quake. And so we probably will. It's a single story weatherboard building. So it's at the lower end of restoration. Now, there may be a community group that is prepared to do a realistic rental. for that building, and you can enter a long-term relationship with that group. But until you actively go out to the community, you won't find that out.
True. Good point. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jake. Daryl.
Thank you, Mark. I take on board everything you have stated, and I'm pretty much in agreement with you. But my point is, at this point in time, I detect that you're being somewhat reactive, and taking up your point that it was vacated in 2009. Why has it taken you and potentially the community so long to ask questions? If there was a use for it, and I'm not saying there is not, why has it suddenly come to light?
Well, it's come to light, to be honest about this, simply because the council hasn't actively publicly engaged with the community. I understand from a person who's been involved in the community going way back as a community activist, the council is a large organisation. I think it's a little bit unfair that you expect the residents to keep an eye on everything that's going on within their community, etc., on all buildings, etc., and be actively aware. I mean, I try and keep abreast of what's going on with the paperwork. I'm not expecting sympathy from this board or from the councillors, because I realise the vast amount of paperwork that you have to digest. But it's very difficult to keep on top of this one. I heard about this building because it appears in the agenda. I mean, we don't have anything in advance. The staff, as I said, it's going back out to the community so that we know that it's coming up. Then it would probably be a lot easier.
No, I take your point. I was just playing the devil's advocate.
Cool, thank you, Daryl. Were there any more questions for Mark at all? Oh, cool. Oh,
sorry,
yes, Yanni.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, cool. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the deputation. I think you've been involved with the community long enough to remember a time when residents groups used to be circulated works or proposals that went to the community board ahead of the report for their feedback. Yeah, I was just wondering if you think we also need to do something similar with heritage items, where we just basically circulate to heritage community groups, Historic Places Canterbury, for example, where we've got these sorts of items coming up, so that people can have a chance to to consider it more than just a few days' notice of it appearing on a board agenda.
Yes, one of the issues that I have, you're quite correct about being forewarned and an opportunity to work through it. One of the things that, a general criticism that I would make, and I understand deadlines are tight, is that the council seeks feedback from the community, and there's a tremendous amount of effort required to provide feedback. I know consultation is used a lot, but it is a lot of stress on the community to turn around stuff. I've seen consultations with 6-week deadlines. I mean, how does a residents group meet within a month? You know, once a month, produce a report for a council report for a 6-week deadline. Yes, I think these cycles occur internally within the council. And so they start some time ago. So I think you could be proactive by meeting with the council early. You could probably find a solution on that one. I remember this has been debated sometime right back many years ago. So if we got more involved with the community right at the beginning, we could probably come up with a whole lot of solutions, so that by the time it comes to this community board, you're really just signing off a solution.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. I think you are done, Yanni. Yep. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I do appreciate you coming again this afternoon and giving us the information that you have and giving us more to think about. So I do really appreciate your time. And we will be bringing that up in the agenda a little bit further down. So you can watch that back on the live stream if you want to.
Thank you very much.
We do have one more deputation as well on the same. So we will get into that now. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are moving into now we have Maria. It is lovely to have you with us. Sorry, we don't have another deputation. We have Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Hey, how are you going?
Good, thank you.
Lovely to have you with us this afternoon.
Yes, good to be here, thank you.
Oh. All right, fire away.
Right. So the report we have before you is the proposal to remove the caretaker's house. It has been vacant since the last tenant or caretaker was in there since 2009. We were looking to remove that house once the tenant removed and incorporate that area into Woodham Park, and had started a landscape plan at that particular landscape development plan at that particular time. However, it didn't progress due to the earthquakes occurring, and we have only just recently come back to this one because of the number of issues that have been raised around it, with homeless people, vandalism, dumping of rubbish occurring here. So we've picked up the process to demolish the building, which was the intention at that particular time. We have had a number of past caretaker houses on our garden and heritage parks. This one is probably one of the few remaining ones. We still have the one at Barbados Cemetery, so the cemetery's sexton's house is still there. We just to respond to some of the questions that came up before around usages, parks do have a number of buildings that are currently not in use around the city, and we have been going out for registrations of interest. There's a couple of items that the land status basically hamstrings it here, and that any use of the building has to be directly related to an activity on the park. So it can't be rented out to private people. It would have to be someone who is associated with working in the park or along those lines. If there was a community group to go in here, it would need to be directly related to anything that's happening on the park. And to enable it, we would have to go through a process of changing the status of the land in order to enable it to become a rental or to become community use outside of park activities. There was some discussion around community use. I believe that difficulty with the land status and the cost to repair it, again, there wasn't much appetite for use. Granted, we haven't been out to a full consultation on that. The Woodham Park is one of our garden and heritage parks. It is not scheduled in the district plan as a protected item. In saying that, the heritage team have noted that there is a connection of that building, and it's noted in the report, with the park, in particular the former homestead. So several components of the homestead were used when the building was built in the early 1940s. The wooden park is on the heritage team list as a potential district plan heritage item, but they need to conduct research further to determine whether they would schedule it in the district plan. It's also been recommended in John Wilson's Contextual Historical Overview 2005 as a possible listing. Given it has not been, due to its status of under the Reserves Act, that is why it hasn't had anyone renting it, because we've not had anyone, we no longer have caretakers on our parks, which is why it's sat vacant. And basically at the time of the earthquakes, it was insured, and it is still insured. However, its pre-existing damage is not covered. A assessment, what we call a level 3 assessment, was conducted on the building in 2011, and it estimated that up to 30% of the building had sustained damage. So this was mainly around the chimney, around the ring foundation, and around the internal linings. And it was classified as a Y2, which is a yellow sticker, which means it has restricted use, so it could not be occupied or used until it either had been repaired or demolished. So parks are proposing to demolish this building and further open up that wooden road side of the park, so that there's more visibility into the park, and also opening up an area where there are also some additional plants. It will basically encourage, or expect it would encourage more people to come into that park, and provide a safer park with having more surveillance from the road frontage.
Ooh. Thanks so much, Maria. Really appreciate you explaining some of those points and answering some of those prior questions. I think I had Sarah with hand up and Daryl.
Thank you so much. I'm just wondering what's different about this particular space of reserve land that means it can't be used for just general community uses, when we have lots of other facilities that are used by community groups on reserve land in the city.
So where we've got buildings on reserve land, their use will be in association with the park. So they will have some connection to the activities that they carry out on the park.
So we've got organisations such as Mount Pleasant Community Centre. We've got the one that's on the park in Shirley. Yeah, a range of different community groups using buildings that aren't necessarily park oriented. They are just buildings that are used by the community.
Yeah,
they can't do anything, but they are on reserve land. Mount Pleasant's one that comes to mind.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I do know not all our parks land is reserve, so that's why we have.
Yeah, no, I know that this one is.
Oh, okay.
It just might be something worth checking out. But the other one was when we do look for groups who might like some use. I think one of the things to do will be to work closely with our community governance team, because they're the ones who hold relationships with many of the different community groups and know people that have been and take contact with the board in the past. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, noted.
Thanks, Sarah. Daryl?
Thank you. Maria, two questions. Can I just clarify, please? You talked about heritage. Contrary to what I think was Mark suggested, Heritage is well aware of this building?
They are aware of it, and they would be aware of it through John Wilson's contextual overview of the city. However, and they're aware of Woodham Park as they have it on their list to research, but they haven't visited this particular building or started or undertaken their research here.
Thank you. The second question relates to community consultation. Is it that the process that you have been through identified that community consultation wasn't an option for the reasons you have outlined, or is it that community consultation was an oversight?
I believe we didn't, that the issues occurring here and the intention early on to demolish the house put us, we believe probably we didn't need to do community consultation. However, that could be an oversight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. I've got Sunita, then Jake.
Thank you. I just wanted to know that, Maria, you said that community groups can go in and use the building, but that has to be directly related to parks activity. Can you give me an example, please? What activity that could be?
It could be a community group that is involved in working with the parks team in planting or caring for the park. It could be that they have a specific activity that they do on the park. I'm actually not 100% sure the range of activities that can be undertaken.
Okay, all right. Yep.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Anita. Jake, and then I've got Yanni.
Oh, okay. No question. I was just going to signal. I was just going to signal that I'm happy to move and the alternative option in the report when we get to it.
Cool. Thanks, Jake. Yanni.
Thank you. I was just curious, do we know how much it was, the insured value of it was for the earthquake? Like, I know that we did a global settlement, so I know that you can't just say, you know, that's the money that we got, but we should have had a sum insured, and I was just kind of interested if we were going to go to council for it to have its earthquake repairs done, then just kind of a quantum of how much it was insured for.
Okay. At the time of the earthquakes, it was insured for 173,000. Right. The facilities repair program, this building wasn't identified as one of the projects and wasn't prioritised within that program for repair. There is some residual funding in that repair program, however, that is all assigned to or tagged to completing that priority list that they've got.
Right. Would we be able to get a copy of what's left on that list and what the outstanding balance is? Because I think if we're going to go, like, I mean, I'd support, happy to second Jake's the alternative. But I think it would be good to get that information if we go to council as a board.
You mean on the residual funding from that?
Yeah, and what
list?
the other
Okay.
priority projects are. Yeah. I just wanted to check in terms of, appreciate that that's got some restrictions on in terms of the park. I know that previously we've had council staff say to us that they wanted us to hold on to, with the Sexton's house at Barbados Cemetery, one of the points that was made was that that could be an invaluable space as a works yard for council in terms of, I guess, parks maintenance vehicles and staff. So have we talked to anyone in parks in terms of, I know, like, for example, council's hired additional rangers, urban rangers. Have we thought about the ability to have, maybe some people associated with the red zone or our park rangers being involved as a location where they could work from?
That hasn't been considered. However, if you were to open that up for use as a works yard or a ranger yard to work from, you may find you might start to lose some of the plant collections that are in there to open up enough space for them to work from. You probably also, it is a narrow entranceway. There could be some conflicts with pedestrians and other users in that area if they started to have increased vehicle movements into that space.
Okay, thanks. And just the final question from me is, in regards to just the deterioration, like when we did the site visit to Woodham Park, and so I can't remember what date it was last year, it just looked like it had been completely left off any sort of basic maintenance schedule. It was completely overgrown. It wasn't boarded up properly. It had been smashed in numerous places with broken windows. I'm just trying to get a sense of how something like that can happen, but also in terms of going forward, are there immediate things that we can do to pick up on some of the antisocial behaviour concerns that have been addressed, if we haven't already, like, just cleaning up the vegetation, for example, and just making sure that it is boarded up properly?
So the park staff are doing a maintenance through there, or there should be regular mow or a monthly mow done in there. Granted that some months it grows a lot faster than others. There are security is keeping an eye on that. The fence has been fixed so that there's no ability to move from that site through the neighbour's fence. There is still some activity happening at various times, but we're trying to get on top of that as soon as we are aware it's happening. I could check with the parks team if we can increase our type of maintenance within that site.
Yeah, I haven't been past it recently. Just when we did the walkabout, though, it was pretty shocking. Like, I don't think it had been maintained at all for a very long time.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool, thanks, Yanni. Jake? Oh, you don't have a question, Jake? You're good? Okay, cool. All right, well, if there are no other questions for Maria, nope. Jake, did you want to perhaps, thank you so much, Maria, really appreciated you taking the time to answer those questions from board members.
Welcome.
So thank you. So we will go into, oh my goodness, sorry, my iPad's like exploding on me. Go for it, Jake.
I'll just send through some wording that I bashed together super quickly. That the Linwood-Central-Heathcote Community Board begin a process of seeking community views and expressions of interest for the use of the caretaker's residence. And point 2, that the heritage team complete a heritage assessment of of the residents to establish any heritage values.
Cool, thank you, Jake. And they have just come through, so that's awesome. Sarah?
Just want to check on process. So if we're because there's a metropolitan kind of oh, that was the other one. Sorry, because this is recommending to council, I'm just checking process-wise whether if we decide that we want something different to happen, are we recommending to council that something different happen, or do we just make something different happen and then it doesn't go to council? So process-wise, that's something probably for Arahanui Grace or Liz.
I think Faye's got her.
So I'm trying to get my camera on, so I'm actually here. I'm in. So yes, so you're right, Sarah. So what they're seeking is approval for demolition, and that requires a council approval. In this instance, I think what Jake is looking for is prior to this approval being sought, that these additional steps are taken. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah. But Sarah's quite right to raise the point. Is there any way that within our delegated authority we could slow this down to complete these actions, or does it have to go to council and then we'd have to complete?
Well, no. So the board has the power to recommend to council. So in this instance, are you recommending that council explore prior to?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that would be the only possible option,
Yes.
really, wouldn't it?
I think so. There's two things. Either we can ask for that work to be done, and then for it to come back to the board so that we can make a recommendation.
Yeah. So lay the report on the table for.
Yeah.
We could do that, or
that sounds quite a long period of time though for that assessment to be done and for the expressions of interest with the wider community, because that usually takes 3-4 months. I'm just wondering which bit of those.
It's not necessarily a formal expressions of interest process you're looking for, though, is it? It's sort of for consultation or engagement with the local community. Around interest.
If we can demonstrate an interest and that there's heritage value in it, then it gives us the opportunity to recommend to council that they don't demolish, but that they repair and work with the community.
Yes. So are you okay with something along those lines?
Yeah, more than it's better to deal with it. Yeah,
Maria. Yes. So we'll lay the report on the table and ask staff to carry out this process before it comes for consideration. At that stage, I mean, they may bring the report back with a different recommendation, i.e. that it be leased to somebody, or they may come back with this report and saying, we've gone through the consultation process, there is an interest, or it's not going to work for this reason or whatever. So
but even then, so the heritage stuff's really interesting, because if the heritage team look at it and go, actually, we think it's worth scheduling and we would like it to stay because we hadn't had the opportunity to do that in the past, then that's at a point potentially where we can go to council and say, listen, it's got heritage value, we think it should be repaired. Many groups may not want to express an interest in a building that's so dilapidated currently. It's a chicken and egg kind of thing. So we might get some expressions of, hey, yes, if it was fixed, we might. But even then, it's not going to be a commercial return. Our community groups have a nominal rental on buildings and things for community uses. So that's just something we'd have to advocate to council for if that's how that goes.
So what about, and probably Maria, you might want to have input into this too. We go somewhere along the lines of that the board decided to let the report lie on the table to allow for further investigation into possible community use.
So instead
of possible repair and community use of the buildings or the premises. Or is it going too far?
I know I'm not Maria, but I think that's good. And then it's the end request the heritage team assess the building.
Okay. Lie the report on to allow for consideration of the heritage, perhaps do an investigation of into the heritage values of the building. Investigation into, I'll just scroll a few words down, I'll read them back.
I think Maria's just had her hand up as well.
Yeah.
Could I just clarify, if the heritage team assessed it as having heritage value, then you would want to look at retaining it and see if we can get a use out of it. If the heritage team, say, determined it didn't have heritage value, would you still want to go ahead with seeking a use for that building?
I would. I think it would depend on what the advice was. So leaving this report on the table means that the report comes back as it is, but with all of the additional advice on potential community use and on the heritage value, and allows us to make a recommendation to council at that point.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Sarah on that.
If we put something along the lines of, this is a bit of a work in progress, but so the board decided to let the report lie on the table to allow investigation into possible heritage value of the buildings and or for community, for consultation to be undertaken on community usage.
Can I just suggest two tweaks?
Viability of community usage, perhaps? Yeah, two
tweaks. The first one, instead of to allow for, can you say and requested?
Yep.
Yep. And the other one, instead of consultation, it's engagement on the community use.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And I also think possible heritage value, take out the word possible, because either it is heritage value or not.
And requests investigation into the heritage value of the buildings, taking out possible. And do we want that and or engagement into the viability of community use?
Yeah, take the or out.
And engagement with community on the viability, engagement on the engagement on the viability of community use of the building.
Good work.
Fabulous.
And that could include both the engagement with the community and an assessment of what type of uses are able to be had. Yeah. That's, but you guys will know.
So my understanding is that the depends on the reserve status as to what the limitations of it. So if it's a recreation reserve, you can have obviously sports facilities and clubhouses and that kind of thing on a rec reserve. So it's constrained by the type of reserve that it is, but that could be looked into too. So what we've got now is that the board decided to lay the report on the table and requests an investigation into the heritage values of the buildings and engagement into the viability of community use.
Fabulous. That's great. So you're all happy with that, Jake?
Yeah.
And Sarah, did you want to second that? Cool. All right.
Daryl was happy to second it, I thought.
Oh, well,
Daryl, had you already seconded it?
I'm happy to second it.
Jake and Daryl, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone. And all in favour?
Aye.
Perfect. Thanks so much, team. Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you, Faye, for your words.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Fabulous. Okay, we are moving on now, everyone, to the presentation of petitions. Spur of time, I know we have our briefing people waiting for us. So we'll go through this quickly. This is just in regards to the petitions that came to us at our last meeting that were unfortunately not there on time. So we are just accepting those. So the first petition supported retaining of the current asphalt surface on Dawson Street. And the prayer of the petition read, we support retaining the current asphalt surface of Dawson Street. The planned resurfacing in chip seal stones poses a risk to the health, safety and well-being of pedestrians and of damage to properties and vehicles. We have those petitions. Also, you'll have those board members in your notes. And the second petition supported the change in designation from Dawson Street to Dawson Lane. And the prayer of that petition reads, we, the properties owners and residents, support the change in designation from Dawson Street to Dawson Lane. So if I have a mover for those petitions being accepted, maybe Tim, and seconder Sunita. Thank you. Was there any discussion that needed to be had around that? We're all good? Okay, fabulous. All in favour? Aye, cool. Thank you. All right, so we are now moving on to our briefing. So welcome to our ECAN team that are here with us today. It is lovely to have you. Sorry if you've been waiting for a little while. We are here now. So we have Lan with us and Vicky. Do we have anyone else or are they not here?
No, that's us today, Alex. Thank you.
Cool. Well, it's lovely to have you with us. So fire away.
Oh, kia ora. Well, he mahana kia koutou. Thanks so much for your time today. And I know that, you know, we're just one of many things. So we'll try, we're not going to slides or anything. We're trying to keep it super brief and more just like try, at least attempt to bring our annual plan to life and obviously answer any questions and can talk about things in other ways and forms outside of this meeting too, instead of making you all sit here. And apologies and thank you to those of you who have already kind of heard an initial spiel. We did like a high level spiel to the joint community board forum as well. So you all, I think you look really, I know most of you. But for anyone who I can't see who is here, my name is Lan Farm and I'm ECAN counsellor for the Central or Hoko ward. And Vicky, do you just want to do a shout out who you are?
Yeah, kia ora. I'm Vicky Southworth and I'm the counsellor for South Christchurch or Whanga. Kia ora, Tim, over there. I do cross paths with some of you on some other things such as our fantastic estuary trust. So, kia ora.
Awesome, thanks Vicky. So high level spiel. We're obviously, as you well know, because you're in year 2 of your own, or you're going into year 2 of your own long-term plans. This is year 2 of our long-term plan. And so we've got a targeted focus on specific aspects, 3 specific aspects in particular, which doesn't mean that the rest of it isn't all up for discussion still, but it's not the focus for this consultation. But I do want to remind people of that because there's still some really good stuff within that broader long-term plan picture. Our Merudako regeneration program, considerably more investment in biodiversity across the board, and a whole bunch of really good stuff there. But what we're trying to focus people's attention on is number 1, our fear review. And so we've got 3 options that we're interested in the community's thoughts on. The most, popular in some areas at least, is the free fares proposal for those who are 25 and under, tertiary students, and community service and mobility card holders. So that's hitting a number of sort of low income aspects as well through that community service card, and then more universally across tertiary and primary and high school students. So that's our preferred option, but it obviously has costs to the community. The second option is a $2 flat fare option, which is a little bit cheaper, about roughly half the price of the free fare option. And then finally, we've just got basically our status quo, but with a tertiary student reduction. Now, people are obviously asking about the costs of this, and just to give one example for a household, and you're probably used to taking sort of sample households as an example, a 580k house in Burnside would pay about $49.50 per year for option one. But what our consultation doesn't talk a lot about is actually the amount of money that a lot of people might save through this. So, for example, a student in zone 2 who even just uses the bus 3 times a week to get to uni would be saving about $900 per year. For families who might have 2 or more kids that are at school or in tertiary at uni, they could be saving more in the realm of $1,000 to $2,000 per year. So it's really good in terms of, you know, we obviously are hearing the squeeze on fuel prices and really conscious of trying to give people transport options. And we also have sort of spare capacity in our bus network because of COVID and the likes. And yeah, it's a way to sort of offer that up to the public. I'll just carry on with the 2 other areas really briefly, and then we can, because likely we'll want to focus on the free fare thing. So the other 2 areas that we're trying to draw people's attention to, one is how we fund our flood recovery. So in May last year, we had these ginormous floods across Canterbury, and paying for that damage to bring them back to essentially a safe standard. Sorry, and I'm talking about our flood protection, like our flood banks and all this kind of stuff, would cost about $12 million. And we usually target that money to the communities who are directly impacted. But we think the floods in 2021 were of such a regional scale that we're proposing that this is actually funded by a general rate across the region. And we know that this kind of flooding and these instances are going to be more and more common with climate change and that kind of thing. So we are trying to broach that, you know, wider topic with our communities and say, hey, are we willing to pay for these things together and share that burden? The third aspect is we're consulting more broadly on trying to get people's ideas about a climate levy, and this isn't for this annual plan. It would be, we're basically floating the idea for a future long-term plan, and that would mean that could include things like ecological restoration and protection measures, you know, tree planting measures, or predator control. It could also mean funding public transport initiatives like maybe universal free fares, for example, but funded on a region-wide basis rather than a targeted rate for Greater Christchurch. But we're open to ideas and suggestions. So that would be the high-level touch points, and we can go straight to questions if that's good.
Oh, thank you so much, Lan. I've got a couple of questions already, but I really appreciate the fact that you're actually coming to community boards and having that direct korero with us. Like, it's really fantastic. So thank you so much for making that extra effort. We have Daryl first and then Jake.
Thanks, Alex. Lan, can I check with you, please? The proposal with respect to bus fares for students, was that for free travel?
Yes, so the preferred option is for free travel for all tertiary students. But the third option was basically no free travel for anyone, but just a discount for tertiary students. Have I got that right, Vicky?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
just clarifying that point, it's not beyond the realms of possibility going forward and coming up to an election next year that the government may take the initiative to subsidise travel or to continue the subsidy that they've currently promulgated, even to the point of possible free travel for students. That being the case, obviously everything would be off the drawing board. Am I correct, or is that not being thought about?
Well, look, we would love, I mean, if central government wanted to come to the table with us, and you'll probably be aware of that nationwide free fares campaign.
Yeah.
Look, if central government wanted to step in and so that we don't need to rate our ratepayers for it, that would be the ideal, obviously. But we're trying to say, look, we're wanting to take these measures anyway, because prior to a few days ago, the government hadn't made any soundings that they were wanting to or could afford to do something in this space. So it's great that they are now, and I'd encourage them to do more.
So your first priority is to want to get free travel, and if that's not possible, then to go back to subsidised travel.
Yes, so the preferred option is for the free fares for those limited groups. It's not for everyone, but it's for the 25s and unders, the tertiary students, and the community service and mobility card holders. And that would be for a period of 2 years.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks, Daryl. Jake, then Tim, then Michelle.
Thanks, Lan and Vicky. A really interesting subject, and I just thought, as Daryl was talking, that no doubt the government's announcement will impact your costings on this one, which it's a bit of a shame you have to go out to the public with the high end top dollar figure when it's not going to come in at that. Just wanting any feedback or thoughts either of you had on the age old argument about lowering fares or making fares free for some versus service provision, knowing that we both, as in us supplying the infrastructure and you guys the service route provision are doing a lot more in this space, or about to be doing a lot more in this space. But was there much debate behind the scenes in terms of whether this was the best use of that money?
Lan, can I jump in on this one? I'll answer this one. So absolutely recognise that service provision is really fundamentally important to people being able to use the bus. And obviously the distribution of services is what makes more people able to even access the bus. Some people live some distance from the bus stops. And so those things do need to improve for sure. This proposal is really recognising that since COVID started, we've now lost 30% of our passengers. And so we can, by using the fare subsidy switch, the intention is to quite quickly try and ramp back up our passenger numbers, which we can do and still maintain, essentially using our current services, we can quite quickly ramp back up those numbers of passengers. It's really hard to argue to increase services when you see so many buses with very few passengers on. I'll note that the proposal here for fare free would be to start in February 23. So the expectation being that by then the COVID situation will at least have become more normalised. And so, there's some, and it's also coincides with like the start of the new school and university years and so on. So, young people coming into that new year, accessing the buses for free. The intention is to really increase the sort of connection going forward of people, younger people, creating a new generation of public transport users. So that's why we're saying under 25s, just generally to try and kickstart that. Public transport is actually a really good and useful thing to have and gain more support going forward, which means then we can hopefully also encourage more funding to go into services. So it's, you've got to sort of bring the two things along together, I think, passenger numbers and services, and try and use all the different tools we have in the box to try and get those things working in sync. We do have public transport futures, which of course City Council is also very much engaged with and is rolling out infrastructure components whilst we're increasing the number of buses and frequency of services and so on. That's already in the long-term plan, and that's funded. And that dollar a week extra figure that Lan mentioned includes the public transport futures extra service components that will be rolled out over these next 10 years, albeit, Jake, you'll know that we have our Mayor and Chair going to see the Minister of Transport to try and increase the speed at which we ramp up our services as well. So that's may or may not be successful, but we're looking to see how we can deliver better public transport for our communities at the same time. But this is a quick switch, a quick 2-year trial, just to try and get those numbers back up and incentivise our public transport use.
Understood. Really good answer. Hey, if I can have a cheeky supplementary, I know other people are waiting. What does success look like in terms of what the percentage might bump by?
The modelling suggests 22% in the second year increase in our passenger numbers, so it will start to head back to where we were at pre-COVID on that basis. But yeah, but it's modelling, it is predictive, so we'll see. That's a trial.
Interesting.
Cool, thanks Vicky, thanks Jake. Tim.
Yeah, my question was really about the flood recovery funding. And you mentioned the 12 million for across the region for repair work, etc. I get out and about quite a bit, and I've seen some unbelievably dramatic changes in rivers and places, and things where it may have been sensible to do something in the past, but it is no longer sensible to continue to defend that or try to protect it in the future. My assumption is that in ECAN, that ECAN will be considering those sort of decisions as it moves forward.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I wish I could just show you this slide, which kind of summarises where Environment Canterbury's evolution has taken the organisation in terms of total infrastructure-led solutions to our flood issues, and that evolution from now where we're at is basically incorporating recreational values, biodiversity values, nature-based solutions. They're very much in terms of our operational work and how we're investing. It's as much about Runanga involvement in terms of Te Mana o Te Wai and restoring the health and well-being of the river and that kind of thing, as it is about actually protection of infrastructure. So I actually we went into detail about this just recently with another group that I'm part of, and Colin Merck happened to be there, and he was just like, wow, it is so great to hear ecological principles being applied to these investment infrastructure decisions. So I hope even that brief summary gives you some confidence that is where we're at, and actually we've got a lot of work in that space too. Yeah,
big thumbs up.
Cool, thank you. Michelle.
So I guess just want to say that I support the Free Fares initiative, but I'm also keen to know, that's so disappointing that the numbers are way below what they were, because they weren't that great. Because I guess what I'm interested to know is why sitting in under that, even apart from COVID, there are some real problems in Christchurch compared to Wellington and the other major cities in terms of use of public transport. So I presume that you have been doing that work, and I'm just interested to know what your plan is in relation to that. And this is part of the plan for sure, and I get that. But I guess we know that public transport is important in terms of emissions and climate change and things. So
yeah, shall I answer this one again, Lan? So the service provision is really a real key part of, we had services cut, I understand, since when the commissioners came in, and also post quake, there have been some services lost. So, for example, I've heard about that there used to be an express bus that came through from the bays and went straight into town that was popular. And there's other services that have gone by the wayside. It's not only about services. So, for example, I'm on Route 3, which has got a bus every 10 minutes. Now, I'm a frequent bus user, and that's revolutionised my life in terms of bus use. You know, it's just so easy, you just rock up and you know you're never going to be waiting too long. And you know, it'd be great to have, and down the line we'll have many more than just the Route 3 at that type of level of frequency. But there's also just this the buses doesn't compete in terms of the speed with car. Our parking is it's easy to get parking even quite centrally in our city for free. And then we just don't have the levels of congestion that the likes of Wellington and Auckland have, which is another off-put for people. You know, using, well, it even makes people more inclined to get on public transport in those cities as well. But I think it is really a case of trying to just pull all those different levers. So we're looking at improving services down the line. We've got Public Transport Futures is looking at that. There is then another business case currently being developed, which is looking at the mass rapid transit options and whether and how that will become an option within Christchurch. But that really needs to run in parallel with changes in some of the planning, so that we're densifying key corridors, and then you have enough, in theory, you'll then have enough potential passengers to actually make those things viable. So it's just getting all the different pieces all to integrate and work together. But at this point in time, really, the bus network is what we can focus on, and then you know, more glamorous options down the line, which we have to do. You know, we have to shift out of our cars. We cannot continue to be, you know, the car-centric city of the world, which we practically are at the moment. So,
yeah. Absolutely agree. Yep.
Sorry,
just one.
I just wanted to say just really quickly, Michelle, I'm just really aware of time. We've only got an hour left for the whole meeting, and we haven't got into any of our staff reports. So if we just got the last couple of questions just really quick and succinct, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Just that climate levy, I just wondered if you wanted to flesh that out just in 5 words or less. I'm joking, but just quickly.
Well, I guess I would just use the example of PT, like you mentioning the emissions factor, Michelle, and really good, like, clearly you're aware of that. But for example, I even just saw an email from Gen Zero sort of promoting the annual plan, and even they said, oh, you know, this proposal of free fares may benefit like most of Greater Christchurch, sort of implying that it will only benefit those who can access the bus services. And I was like, no, this is about transport as our key emissions reduction lever. Like, that is the one lever we can actually pull to have significant like change in our emissions profile. We don't currently have any or solid agricultural levers that we can pull. So this is it. And we're trying to, I guess, get people saying that's the kind of thing they want to see. They want to see region-wide movement on restoration, regeneration, whatever, and they're willing to pay for it as well. So PT I think is a key part of that.
Health from the emissions as well, like there are positive health benefits from less pollution.
Better air quality, less congestion, all of it.
That's it.
Cool. Thank you. Yanni?
Thank you for the deputation. I just had 2 questions. One is I'm getting a lot of feedback from local residents concerned at the mixed messages around odour reporting and the use of the Smell It app. Do you have anything on budget to further enhance your pollution hotline reporting so that it's easier for people to be able to register the concern? I think it sounds like maybe there needs to be a bit more investment in the IT side of things so that that app can be more widely used. But obviously with the wastewater fire and the organics plant, for some people it's quite confusing to have to go through 3 different channels of complaining about the odour.
Yeah, I'd have to come back to you, Yanni, because I'm not sure about the exact investment. Like, I know that the whole Smelter app is part of ECAN's Aronga Whanoki program, which is basically like innovation and like trying new things like the app, you know. So
Yeah, cool.
it's
I think just getting the information back would be helpful. Like, I think as a board we might like to submit or encourage local residents to submit, because it was really good and easy to use, and it would just be a shame if it was constrained by funding. So any information around that I think would be useful.
Sorry, are you saying that you are finding it's good to use?
So as I understand it, like people are being told not to use it to report odour for anything else other than living earth. And
okay,
you know, whether that's true or not, but with the wastewater fire, the council is telling people to contact the council with the odour complaints, not to contact ECAN and not to use this Millet app. So my understanding from one of the liaison group meetings that we had was there's some limitations within Smelt It, but I think just getting some information back, because I think, you know, like with the dust and with the odour stuff, ECAN is doing a lot more using IT and being progressive in that space. So I just wanted to support that work and make sure that it had appropriate resourcing.
Yeah, I think the purpose of the Smelt It app was specifically to gather data around the composting plant or that area to understand where the issues were. So it was to enable a real detailed understanding of that particular situation, which is why they're trying to, I think, keep separate the wastewater issue at that point. And the same app has been used down in Timaru for another sort of like, where is the issue coming from, homing in and you know, to find out what's the problem. And so I think that's why they've tried to keep it really separate at this point. But yeah, it's a great app and it seems to be well liked. So we can find out which just
the other question.
More generic purposes.
Just the other question I had was around public transport. Do you have any levels of service or activity management plans that talks about the need to keep public transport owned locally, or with even within New Zealand? Because I know the two bus companies that are now serving us are effectively multinational corporations, and we've had as a board numerous complaints from people over their behaviour and how people are treated when they approach the bus companies has left a lot to be desired. So I was just kind of interested in whether there's any sort of mechanism that you have in your levels of service or activity management plans where people might like to submit to us that you do actually think about local control of, you know, our basic needs in terms of public transport, because also the concern is that, as we've seen with some other industries, that it's the lowest common denominator, a race to the bottom. And actually, when it comes to things like providing the service, often these multinational companies fall well short of what the public expectation is, or even the service contracts that they have. You know, we saw that in Christchurch previously with some other areas. So I was just wondering if people were concerned about public transport, not just the fare structure, but also the ownership issue, whether there's anything in your annual plan or your long-term plan where people could submit.
I wouldn't say, not specifically on that, because I think it's more of a procurement issue. And so certainly we have had conversations about, you know, how would you prioritize a, say, New Zealand owned company and through a procurement process. And obviously there's particular, you know, there's legislation around what you can and can't do, as I understand it. As far as I'm aware, there's just the one bus that I heard through your board that there was a problem with. I think it was GoBus that we had a report from your board about problems. I wasn't aware that there'd been any particular negative comments about the other bus company, but GoBus, when we signed the contract, if I remember rightly, was New Zealand owned and operated, I believe, and then it's subsequently been sold. So, you know, there's those types of situations where I'm not sure how we could maintain control of that type of outcome. I think it would be fair to say that many of us around the table are keen on the idea of having more, a locally owned or a company that's council owned running the buses. It's a shame Phil Clearwater's not here because he's more across all of this stuff than I am. But I don't know, Lana, if you've got anything else to add to that. But certainly it's, it'd be great to see our buses more locally owned if we could.
Just that it is a live conversation in terms of, well, definitely in the procurement area, because particularly around our electric vehicle manufacturing, but it clashes with the Local Government Act in terms of us having to be cost effective, for ratepayers and that kind of thing. But we're looking at it. There's nothing that I can think of that I can point to and say, but that will mean that things will be local, other than where staff are exploring how to do it in a way that's legal, basically.
Cool. Thank you so much, Lan, and thank you for those questions, Yanni. Sorry, I don't mean to cut everybody off because heaps of great discussion, but we're running really late. But really appreciate you coming to us again. And I think if the board have any extra questions, we can contact you. Does that work?
Please contact us. We're here to help. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for everything you do for these communities.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to item our former Woolston Amateur Swimming Club funding allocation, and we have Rory with us. Hi, Rory.
Afternoon, evening all.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, great, thanks.
Just ready for me to take it away, or?
Yep. You're aware that it's all live streamed and everything, aren't you?
Yep. Nope. All good. So yeah, I think the report generally just speaks for itself in terms of the recommendations of the allocation of the funds. On top of that, obviously, given the current climate we find ourselves in with COVID, the preference from the group is to wait for a face-to-face handover to be possible in terms of presenting the cheque, and potentially the view would be to tie this in with the unveiling of the plaque at the pool. Based off of the recommendations. So that's sort of the preference from the group in terms of the formal handover. But other than that, just take the report as read, and I'll welcome any questions.
Well, thanks so much, Rory. Questions for Rory?
Happy to move.
Cool.
Happy to second.
Fabulous. I think I've got Yanni with his hand up and Michelle.
Thanks, Rory, and thanks for the report. Just, I understand there's $1 million left over from the pool development. Has anyone from the facilities team talked about any of that money being reinvested into some of the things that people have wanted in the area, given that the money's being saved?
I've not been aware of any of those conversations, so I'm not 100% sure whether they've happened or not. Right. But I'm not sure if anyone from the governance team is able to chip in on that. I'm not sure.
I think that's something we can just ask for some advice around, because we're obviously making a decision on this funding now. Was there anything else?
I think the projects are good. I was a little bit concerned that, for example, this money would be used to pay for a plaque when there's significant money on the pool budget that should have.
That's what they've asked for it for.
Stuff. I appreciate that.
Yana, you were at council when that money was reallocated, when we were told that money had been reallocated to a different project. We raised concerns about it, but it's been.
Yeah. We haven't made a decision on it, but.
We were told that it had already.
Decision now. Michelle?
So I'm really just channeling Jackie here. She just wanted to let you, Rory, and the rest of the team involved in this exercise know that, she was really happy with the way that it was gone, and she's happy with the recommendations. So I thought it was important to pass that on, and I think she spoke to you too, Alex, about it. So thank you from Jackie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michelle. And that's really important for us to get that information that they are super happy with it. So thank you for that process. It's very awesome. All right, well, if there are no other questions for Rory, I think we had Sarah and Daryl as our mover and seconder. All in favour? Fabulous. Oh, good.
Sorry, can we debate?
What would you like to debate?
Oh, I just, is it okay just to say a very quick words? Because I know we're short for time.
Yes,
cool. I mean, I just wanted to thank the Woolston Park Swimming Pool Association. They actually have a really wonderful history in our local community. And, you know, I just think we should acknowledge all the hard work that so many people have done over many years around that Woolston pool, and also to contribute to the new Te Poi Toi Toi Linwood pool. So I just really wanted to place on record that it would be nice for the board just to, just thank and acknowledge. I know we're acknowledging the funding, but also I think to thank the that swimming club for the and the association for the contribution.
Absolutely. Cool, thanks, Yanni. All right, so that is, we have all in favour, haven't we? Yes, we have. Cool, all right, team. Thank you so much, Rory.
Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Okay, so our item 9 we do not have, so we are moving on to item 10 now. Slow speed neighbourhoods, Scarborough Hill, and that is page 33 of your agendas. And we have Gemma.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I would like to introduce Charlotte French and Hannah Ballantyne, who will do a little presentation for you about the consultation feedback.
Fabulous, thank you.
Are you there, Charlotte and Hannah?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, awesome, fantastic. Hello, can everyone see me? Yes, wonderful.
Yes, hello.
I'll just jump straight in. So I think I joined a little bit, I missed the introductions, but hello, I'm Charlotte. I think I've spoken to you sooner, so I'll earlier on another area, so I'll just jump straight into Scarborough Hill and Taylor Mistake. So if we just go to the next page, a quick refresher on why we're doing this, the big picture stuff. So Road to Zero, of course, is the national strategy for looking at how we can reduce our death and serious injuries nationally by 2030 by 40%. And one of the ways that we're going to do this is through speed management, which is the process of aligning our speed limits on our roads to what's called the safe and appropriate speed for the road itself. And that can be governed by lots of different things. So it's function of the road, the design of the road, and who's using that road. In neighbourhoods where we would like our neighbourhoods to be safe places for our children, for the people living there. And so a safe speed zone or a neighbourhood zone, which is usually 40 kilometres per hour, is the desired speed limit for these areas. And not only does that have the aim of reducing death and serious injuries, but also it can improve vulnerable road user safety, improve connectivity for pedestrians by making it easier to cross the roads, for example. It has the ability to reduce traffic noise and also naturally improves the safety outside schools, which is really, really important and a big priority for not only City Council, but also nationally in our Ministry of Transport strategy. So that's a little bit of the why, and I'll just continue to the Scarborough area, which is what we're discussing today. So we consulted on this late last year. And this was what we consulted on, which was a 40-kilometre speed zone across the entirety of the hill. The existing threshold, which is those red signs there, is currently the point at which the Sumner 40k zone starts. So the intent will just to be making that a 40-40, what we call a repeater sign, and it will just be adding a bit of red paint, tidying that up. We're also going to be adding some repeater signs along the main stretch, just to remind people. But it's important to note that this area here has a very slow speed anyway, just because of the nature of the road is quite narrow. It is very slow speed on its own already. So it was a bit of a no-brainer for us to be able to do this. And we also were aware of some community desire to have a slower speed through here anyway. So that's enough from me. I'll pass over to Hannah, who's just going to talk about the results from consultation, and then we can jump into some questions.
Yep, so just quickly, the consultation ran from the 5th of November to the 5th of December last year. We used letterbox drops and newsline stories, social media, on-site signage, and the online Have Your Say form. Write this. We received 37 submissions. The numbers of submissions on the report that you received were correct, but the correlating percentages weren't. You may have noticed that they were out. So we apologise for that, and aren't quite sure how that happened. It doesn't affect the way in which the submissions leaned or our staff recommendation. The correct percentages were that 35% clearly supported the project, 26% were clearly opposed, and 39% showed no clear indication either way. The key themes from the submissions were having clear signage, so obviously that would be part of the proposal. Some of this feedback was to do with having give way to uphill traffic kind of signage. So we got some advice on that. And so far, we've been unable to determine if there's anything in national or council's bylaw that would permit us to be able to decide who has priority. And the other key theme was the repair and widening of the existing roads. And we've passed that feedback on to the appropriate teams. Yeah, that's kind of it for consultation. Does anyone have any questions on any of this?
Cool, thank you so much. I think we've got Daryl and then Tim.
Thank you, Alex. Can I check with you all, please, as to whether you actually went out and looked at the sites that you have put the speed limits for, or was it a desktop exercise?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yes, yeah. I did go out to site. So yes, we did drive over the roads themselves. I was part of the team that went out to not only look at the site itself if it was feasible, but also identify potential the safe and appropriate locations for the signage should this be approved as well. So I have been a part of that, and I was a part of the decision for the speed limit.
Okay, thank you. Can I refer you to section 2, officers' recommendations, to point 1.b. It says approve the permanent speed limit on Flowers Track be set at 40 kilometres per hour. Flowers Track is a track, not a road.
Jimmy, do you know about this one? Sorry, I wasn't involved in writing the report myself. I just did the advisement as to what the speed limit should be. So I can't comment on the actual content of the report myself as to the actual language. Gemma, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Sorry, Daryl.
Well, if you go to 1.b of your report, officers' recommendations, you have us today, you're seeking for us to approve the permanent speed limit on Flowers Track be set at 40 kilometres per hour.
Yeah.
It's a track, not a road.
It may be that it is still designated as a legal council road. That could potentially be the situation, even though it is a track. I'm not 100% sure on this one, but we can definitely look into that.
That is something that certainly I'm not happy on voting on today, given that we need clarity around that. The second point I'm concerned about is 1R, which says approve that the permanent speed limit on Whitewash Head Road entire length be set at 40 kilometres per hour. Whitewash Head is can only take one vehicle at the time, and when I read this I was really concerned. So after lunch today I took a drive up Whitewash Head Road, met a vehicle coming down who went up a driveway to let me go up to the top. There is absolutely no way that 40 kilometres per hour is a good speed limit for that road.
I will acknowledge that the limit is not a target. That is not what we're saying the limit people will be driving at. Our legal allowance to reduce speed limits below 40k is very limited to situations where the environment is built up enough and, for example, has pedestrians, school children, etc., etc. The ability for us to get a 30k limit on a road that has not got those criteria doesn't really exist. So 40k is the lowest we can legally go for a lot of these types of roads. And just because that's the limit, it does not necessarily mean that people will drive at that. Currently, the limit is 50 k's, for example. And the operational speed data that we have, which is real-time data, is showing that road to be, on average, people travelling at 20 k's an hour. So there are people already driving well below 40 k's. So if we change the speed limit sign to 40k there, that's not going to necessarily increase speeds. It doesn't really work in that way.
Well,
if that makes sense.
In response to that, I'm sorry, I have to say that in the information that you've provided, it says the policy framework 6.3 is to set speed limits that are safe and appropriate. 40 kilometres an hour as a upper speed limit is not safe and is not appropriate. So I'm signalling that based on the points that I've raised here today, I'm unable to support the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Dale. I will just add to that the definition of safe and appropriate according to the Speed Management Guide, which is a set process that we use to define these speed limits for these roads, Whitewash Head Road and others did meet the threshold for 40 k's under that guidance, just because the requirement for 30 and below requires the likes of pedestrians and shops and et cetera, or a high enough existing crash risk to reduce it further, which this road does not currently have. So although anecdotally completely understand the perspective, Daryl, there from a technical perspective, 40k is the safe and appropriate speed limit for this road.
Thank you. I've made my point.
All good. Thank you, Daryl.
Cool. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Charlotte. Tim.
Yeah, well, my point is I like simplicity, and much of Sumner is 40, and it just makes simple sense to have all of Scarborough to Taylor's Mistake as the same. Otherwise, people get confused. Now, and also as a former long-term resident of Taylor's Mistake, I would like to move this be accepted.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Sarah, you've got your hand down. Are you all good now?
Yeah, I'm all good. It was a response to Gerald, but I'll leave it for debate.
Okay.
It was a helpful response, but I'll leave it for debate.
Cool, thank you. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming to meet with us and answer those questions. And we will carry on. But thank you so much.
That's right.
Okay. Did we have a mover?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Tim. Okay. And did we have a seconder?
Happy to.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, you just froze then. All right, so we can now go into debate.
I'm happy to start the debate off and say, normally I am not a person that wants to reduce speeds. In fact, I go the other way and want to retain fast traffic. But in this particular case, two things concern me. One is the fact that we have a report which I believe is deficient in terms of approving speed limit on Flowers Track to be set at 40 kilometres an hour, As yet, we do not have an understanding from our experts today whether that is a legal road or not. So there is a gap in our knowledge in terms of being able to make a decision. And it seems ridiculous to me that Flowers Track is even in there. And if you look on the map, there's a straight line up a vertical hill, which doesn't stack up. The second point is I cannot abide by the fact that approving a speed limit on Whitewash Head Road at 40 kilometres an hour is sensible, even if we're currently looking at 20 kilometres an hour, which people go, because there's a contradiction in the policy framework that is set out here. It says set speed limits that are safe and appropriate. And if there was signage put in Whitewash Head Road that said 30 kilometres an hour or 20 kilometres an hour, I'd probably be more comfortable with it, but I cannot support the recommendations here based on such a discrepancy between the policy framework and the recommendations that have been made, because I actually think that it's incomplete and there should be more detail there. And I'm not happy to ride with something that sort of says Flowers Track might be a legal road. We'll check that out. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Daryl. Sarah and then Tim.
A couple of things.
Just before you start, Sarah, can we... Oh no, it's just stopped. No, you're all good. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's my bandwidth over the sign. Let me know if I glitch again. I agree with Daryl, and that each of these bits, it would be much safer and more appropriate to have 30 or even 20 in some of the really narrow windy bits. But I've been through this before with quite a few sections of road now, and it's not a council policy that we're fighting with here. It's a national guideline or a rule that we need to get these past not only our own traffic engineers, but the ones in Waka Kotahi as well. And the problem with saying no at this point would be that the default would stay at 50. And so I would urge you, Daryl, and anyone else thinking about doing it, maybe say, let's do 40 for now and work and lobby to get 30 as a valid option, because otherwise it would stay at 50, which is really not viable in this circumstance. Rapaki Track, well-used walking track, is a legal road. The batches at Taylor's Mistake and Hobson's Bay are on legal road, and our staff usually do a really thorough job on this kind of stuff, and it may simply be that Flowers Track is legal road as well. I personally don't see much point of turning it to 40k an hour, but I also don't think there's any harm in it, and it might be just a quirk that is laughed at locally, and that people are limited in their running ability on Flowers Track to 40k an hour.
Yeah.
So I don't see any harm in that, although voting against that particular option rather than the whole lot, I don't see a problem in that either. I think that lobbying government for the ability to do slower in some of these circumstances would be really useful. But at this stage, I think that safety is my key concern, and getting it as low as we're legally able to do right now is a benefit. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Tim and then Yanni.
Yeah, I just wanted to note in terms of the Whitewash Head things, all around Mount Pleasant, where I am, there are lanes and short streets and all sorts of places where the speed limit for the main roads around would simply not make any sense, but we don't have changes of speed limit for them. So I think people will mentally cope with a 40k an hour speed limit that is for the area and also applies to Whitewash Head Road.
Thank you, Tim. Yanni?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Daryl. I think the concern would be if we had signage going up saying 40k, then people may just look at that as being permissive. I think we should just as a board pass a resolution to address those two concerns, because for those of us who have been up there and walked on those tracks or Whitewash Head Road, seen the impact that it had after the earthquake. Like, there's no way that 40k should be the limit. So I don't know if we can move an amendment today, but I think getting some information back on those particular two would be really important.
Cool, thanks,
I'm happy to move an additional resolution to do that, and just ask that you put those two separately.
Okay, so with our mover and seconder, who was our seconder again? Was it you, Sarah?
Sarah.
Sarah, yeah. If we were to add an amendment, would you be happy with that?
If the amendment is not to do those, then I'm not happy, because actually I'm in favour of them all. Yeah, I think that if there's an amendment that was, lobby for the ability to do a slower speed, then that'd be fine. But I don't think we should be waiting, especially like places like Flowers Track. It's not going to have its own sign saying this is a 40k track. It's just going to be part of the whole area, and it won't have a sign that says 40k. It's just that it won't have to have a sign that says 50, I guess.
So it's still got to go to council. So could we not try and get some information before it goes to council?
Provide additional information on the status of Flowers Track
and Whitewash Road,
and Whitewash Road to the council. Yeah.
Cool, did you get that, Faye?
Well, just to be clear, so you're wanting to lay it on the table for the additional information to be provided prior? No. You're wanting to add in a clause to the staff
council
recommendation on the additional request that staff provide additional information on the
additional information to council. Yeah.
Status of Flowers Track.
And the ability to make Whitewash Head Road 30 kilometres an hour.
Or can we just say to lower, lower speed?
Yeah, okay, but are we recommending to the council then or not?
It will depend on the vote. So we will have a vote for the resolutions.
Yeah, but sorry, are we recommending that the council approve this subject to clarification of those things, or subject to clarification? Are we recommending it's a bit of a non-recommendation in some respects?
I think it's just to provide some extra information, which will mean that council could agree with or overturn our decision.
Depart from the board's recommendation. Yep. So recommends this and requests that staff provide council. Yep. So we'll add an additional in there.
Yeah.
And requests this. Yep.
And that can be when we go to council to, because we'll present that to council, we can explain the
and requests staff provide information on the status of Flowers Track and the criteria to be applied in establishing speed limits less than 40 kilometres an hour. Is that right, Charlotte? Are you still there?
Yes, yeah. We can get some words around that, I'm sure.
Yep.
Fabulous, thank you.
Yep.
That sounds good. Thank you, Faye. So we have our mover and seconder.
And Alex, do you want to just put those two specific streets separately, whichever recommendations they are for Darryl?
Oh, yes. Can we do that, Faye?
Yep.
Thank you.
That's R1R and.
Yep. 1R and what was the other one?
And 1A. A and R.
1B and R. Yeah.
1B
Oh,
and
B.
1R. So we're then talking about 1A, 1C, 2Q. Is that right?
A and B are linked, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
A and B are together. And then
B's the one that's you're concerned about, Daryl.
Q and R are together as well.
Yeah.
The whitewash head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're taking out 1A and B. We're not taking it out. We're putting it separately.
Yep. And R.
Yep.
And Q and R.
Yep.
Sorry, Q and R.
Yep. Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much, Faye. So with those amendments, all in favour?
Yep.
Oh, what?
So I think
cutting out.
You're putting, perhaps if we put 1A and B and 1Q and R first separately, and then the balance.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So 1A and B, in favour of asking for the advice, yes. Fabulous. Oh,
Well,
wait, don't you move it?
No. Aren't we putting the recommendation in each case subject? But this is just who's voting on what, I think. So I will just ask for the staff recommendation with the addition of the request for information in respect of 1A and B and 1Q and R. Put that, and then the same recommendation in respect of everything else, the balance. Are you with me?
Yes.
Alex, can you ask for a show of hands? It's impossible to see who's voting for what.
Yeah, it is.
Slow the streets. Slow them down.
Yeah.
So the first one, can I have a show of hands, please? Oh, wait, I have a hand as well.
So that's inclusive of A
and B.
Everything. And Q and R.
Yeah.
That's in respect of A and B and Q and R. So we're only looking at those two at the moment. And then we'll do everything else.
We're seeking further information.
Hang on. We're seeking further information.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, we can seek further information.
No, can I just clarify?
Yeah.
So we're doing this in two parts. So Daryl and a couple of others may not want to do whitewash head and flowers track. We're putting those bits to the vote first. And then there's the rest of it, which includes asking for the additional information.
So
would you read it out, Faye, so that people know exactly what it is that they're voting on?
Well, I think what we were proposing on doing was putting that in two parts so that those people who wanted to vote against inclusion of the 1A and B, even with the additional information, can do so now. If there isn't concern on that, we can put the whole lot, because the information request can apply to the whole recommendation as it is.
So am I correct that what you're doing is, first of all, you're presenting it as it is. If people want it as it is, they can vote for it. If they don't, they can vote against it. Then you're going to do the one that takes account of my needs.
It's the other way around, Daryl.
No.
Otherwise, it's invalid.
Sorry. Thank you.
No.
So Daryl, the thing is, we're putting it in two parts. So the recommendation is going to be covered by your request to staff for information to be provided. That's going to be applied if it goes through. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no, hang on.
No. I'm not clear at all.
I'm so confused.
No. So the extra request for information is part of the whole thing now.
The whole thing,
yes.
Because Tim and I have agreed to add that into at the end of the resolution.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Can I just? I'm sorry for asking at the beginning for the bits to be put separately. Is
Yes,
it
I
easier
think
if we
maybe
just vote on the whole thing?
I think it
and
is.
then Daryl asks which one he wants his names against.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Daryl may be happy to vote in favour of the whole thing with the clarification sought.
I'm happy for that.
Okay, let's put it as one. So
Oh, that's
one
so
whole.
nice.
Yes.
Really nice.
Bye.
Teamwork.
Fabulous. Okay, so with
the staff
additional
recommendation
amendments,
with the addition of the request for additional information to go to council on flowers track status and the ability to alter the speed limits below 40 on certain roads.
Specifically, Whitewash Head Road.
Including, yep, perfect, yep. I'll reference Whitewash Head Road in there.
Hands up.
Which we did get staff advice about. So anyway.
Okay, so we are all good to go with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did anybody vote against and want their vote recorded? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was a lot easier in the end. Thank you.
Thanks for your
okay.
patience.
Thank you, Daryl. And thank you, staff. I appreciate it.
That's all right. No, appreciate your time. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible with that additional information.
That would be so great.
Yeah, no, I've
Thank
been doing a bit of digging as we were speaking. So we'll have something hopefully tomorrow.
Oh, you're fabulous.
Or the day
Thank
after.
you so much.
Yeah, great. All good.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Okay, we are now moving on to item 12, which is Avery House Heritage Park Management of Park Bookings, and we have Kathy with us. Hey, Kathy. Just to remind you that the meeting is being recorded today and is also on a live stream. But thank you for being with us.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to have you. Far away.
It's always interesting when I come to this because I live here in this ward, so it's always educational. Just wish we were talking about Ruru and mesas, but that's okay.
Next time.
Yeah. So my briefing is just really to wrap up the whole Avery House issue where the trust wanted to take over the bookings of the park so that people didn't have to go to the trust and then to the council to use both the building and the park. So we've come to an agreement. It's been in place. Unfortunately, they've been hit with the COVID brush. So a lot of the bigger functions that would have used the park have been canceled. They've had a couple of pop-up events, but nothing major, but they are looking forward to some promotion for the summer, for the spring and summer brides next year. And if it works well, we'll just roll it over for another year. And then Heritage Parks will look at this model for going into other heritage parks and doing the same thing with local interest groups.
Awesome. Thank you. Did anybody have any questions at all, Michelle?
So thank you for operationalizing that's a positive result. We got the people and we managed to get something done that hopefully is helping them. So do you have a sense, and I understand that it's not a normal year, but do you have a sense that they do feel that it's working well for them?
Well, I spoke to Tanya yesterday and she emailed me through their report and goes, look, we've had a couple pop-ups, but they are positive that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Because it is a one-stop shop. It's just contacting them to book the house and then, hey, can we use the gardens? So rather than residents having to call our call center and go through that whole process, and the web page has been updated so that if someone is on the council web page, they see the contact details for Avery House.
And I love that you are then making the links that this might be something useful with other heritage places as well. So thank you for your service.
That's okay. My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If there are no other questions for Kathy, did we have a mover for the recommendation, which I've now just lost? Perfect. Oh, sorry. Michelle? Yanni is seconder.
Yanni was there too.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you. All right. Did we have any debate about it at all? No. Fantastic. All right. All in favour. Hands up. Oh. Cool. Thanks so much, everyone. And thank you, Kathy.
Great. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, we are going on to our monitoring report now, and we have Arahanui, who's been here in the background the whole time.
Are we able to have a break at some point, Alex?
Well, we're only on Zoom until 7 o'clock, so it cuts off then, I believe. Is that right?
It won't cut off.
I thought it did.
No, it won't cut off. So
oh, that's nice.
It would be really good though if we could actually get the meeting finished, so that
that would be good,
because staff hours do run until 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And I don't have permission for us to do overtime on this, so it would be good if we could finish. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the monitoring report, this is simply a collation of all of the information that you get on a monthly basis via the area report, put into one place, and we do it 6 monthly. So this is the 6 monthly collation of the information from the area reports against the community board plan. If there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Yanni?
Oh, thank you. I was just trying to get a sense of what was happening. Like, I know it's been delayed, the Bromley traffic issues. Like, has there been communication back to the residents? I know we were going to set up a community working party, I think. So I was just trying to get a general understanding of what was happening there, and what communications went out to local people. Just to note that I'm still getting a lot of complaints from people about the antisocial behaviour, the speed, the buses, etc.
So as far as the group is concerned, before Sol left, he was in contact with the various people who've been interested in being part of that. The briefing to the board is coming for, I think it's the 6th of April. There have been 5 new team members in the particular transport team that is doing that piece of work, but it's on track for coming to bring to you in April, and then we'll go back to the community group and get going with the various information that comes that will be discussed with the board in that briefing.
Is it possible?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, because Yanni, well, I'm sure you've had the same. I think we're in the same email, Yanni. Like, we did actually have somebody from the community that really wanted to be part of it and had already had initial conversations, and then they've not heard anything as of, was it last week they sent the email, Yanni?
Yeah.
I think it was really recently.
Also, what would be really cool, so we've managed to get $1 million in the draft annual plan, but I'm just worried if we wait for the briefing before we inform people, then we'll miss the opportunity to encourage people to make submissions in support of it. So I wondered if we could maybe just, with the people on the mailing list, send an email just to update them on the draft annual plan project funding, and to encourage them to make submissions.
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful. Cool. Thanks.
Good idea. Thanks, Yanni. Michelle?
More just a comment, really, just in terms of the greening the east, just noting that that Arahanui is following up about some reporting on that. So,
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Okay, so if we do not have any other questions for Arahanui, we can move the report. We have a mover. Sarah and Sunita. All in favour. Thank you. Okay, moving into now our area report.
This is, as you can see, there's not been an enormous amount of team activity during this period of time, because the team activity that's been undertaken is recruitment. So it's a summary of the advice that the board has asked for and various kind of ongoing pieces of work. I'll take it as read, and if there's any questions, please ask.
Cool, thank you. Michelle?
So you have mentioned it, aroha nui, but can't be underestimated the amount of time and energy that the recruitment stuff takes, and also just the impact on staff of that churn. So I'm just wanting to acknowledge that, and that it's not that you haven't been doing stuff, it's just that the stuff that you've been doing takes one sentence in the area report. Or yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Sarah?
Thanks for that. Just on the Boulder Bay sanitation, there's been some good information through. It's not, we always knew that it wouldn't be cheap, and now we've got some information. It's a where do we go from here kind of thing. And while the information is that it's expensive, although there's probably some different options. Had the advice through from Department of Conservation, which I can circulate. The advice is that it's only 800 metres, but actually that's quite a steep 800 metres. And while 800 metres in an urban setting on the flat might not be very far, the evidence from around Boulder Bay that we've been provided with in the past, photographs and other things of kind of is evidence to actually the fact that people don't walk to the toilets, that they feel like they're in a space where there aren't many people, and they just find a bush or a back door of a batch, and that's really not sanitary, and it's not very good for a public space. So I'm just wondering how we progress this. I mean, there was the resolution which actually asked us to work with staff to work out how to spend the licence money, and now that money is being collected, and there will be a fund every year, it's probably time to start that process too. So I'm just wondering how we get that started.
Well, whilst the area report there are no staff recommendations. It's an information only report. It doesn't mean that the board can't make resolutions from it. And so I would say that this is the time where you have a conversation and you work out what it is that you'd like to do to progress it, and then make a resolution that says that.
Okay. So I don't know how others feel. The money from the batches at Taylor's Mistake, Hobson's Bay and Boulder Bay, it's in a ring-fenced pot for enhancements in the area. And the hearings panel at the time heard quite a lot from a range of people about different options. And one of them was actually a toilet, maybe a composting toilet facility at Boulder Bay for the number of people that go there. It's a really popular walking track, but the question is, how do we get that started? So maybe a resolution which asks for a working group to be set up.
Could just do a request of staff to provide advice on.
Is it just advice, or is it a report so that we can actually make a decision to do something?
It will be a report at one stage, but you probably want options around.
So I think
an options report maybe.
Yeah, I think it is. You've got the memo with the information that the advice that you'd asked for. This is the next step. So it's actually an options report around providing toilet facilities.
Yeah, and the setting up of a working group or similar
to progress it. Yeah,
to progress the enhancements to be done with the licensing money from the batches. If that makes sense.
So the rest
because it's supposed to be, it's not supposed to be the board that necessarily decides, it's the working group making. There was some wording in the council resolution about that. It was the board and the community working out how to spend the money from the licenses. That may be in plantings, it may be in a range of things.
Well, it might be in a facility for people to use toilet.
Yeah.
So are the rest of the board happy with that?
Can we get some words around it so we know what we're...
So we'll have a resolution to receive the report and request staff investigate the setting up of a working group to progress. Is that what we're asking, or are we asking for a bit more than that?
Yeah. working group to progress options for spending the license money for the Batch's license fees, including an option for including the toilet at Boulder Bay.
To investigate, setting up a working group to explore options.
For expending the
for expenditure of the
Batch's
license. I'll find some words around that.
Yeah.
Batch's license monies to enhance Boulder Bay area in particular, or
enhance the area, because it's three different areas to the Batches.
To enhance the area,
including the a toilet at Boulder Bay.
The provision of
toilet
facilities at Boulder Bay. Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read that back?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So the resolution now is to 1, receive the report, and 2, to request staff to investigate the setting up of a working group to explore options for expenditure of the batch fund, is it, or monies? I'll find the words here. And sorry, I can't read my own writing now. To expenditure of the batch
license fees.
Of the batch monies to enhance the area.
Yeah.
Including the provision of toilet facilities at Boulder Bay. Did that make any sense?
Yep. Does that sound right?
Working group to explore options for expenditure of the batch monies to enhance the area and including the provision of the, we're asking for options on those things. Is that all right, Sarah? Yep.
Perfect, cool.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Faye. So I think we had Tim, were you?
Oh, I'm just happy to see him.
Yeah, cool. All right, with that being put.
So who was the mover for that? Was that you, Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah.
So with that being put and having it read back to us, all in favour? Anyone against? Maybe Arnie, I'm not sure. Are you all good? Yep, cool. Fabulous, cool, carried, thank you. Okay, I just need to we obviously need to check and see if the board want to convene the submissions committee to submit on the draft annual plan. I think obviously we should do. So if everybody is happy with that, if we can also have that Faye as another resolution at the bottom of the report, that would be fabulous as well. Just that we will convene that in consultations, obviously.
Sorry, I was talking, but I was muted. So if everybody's agreed, we'll just include that with the formal resolution as a point 3.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
fabulous. Okay. Cool, thank you. And we are all good with that? I would hope so. Yeah, all good. Fabulous, cool. Okay, so we are done that then, because we have moved and seconded and all agreed. So fabulous. Okay, moving on now to elected members information exchange. So we had Daryl sent us through some information. Do you want to do that, Daryl, now?
Yes, sure.
Daryl's information. Michelle, you're looking very confused.
I got my hand up first.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going through my list. Sorry.
So do you want me to go, Alex, or?
Yes, because I have you as number 1 on my list. So sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Go second.
In 1 minute or less, the photographs I sent through today, I think, clearly explain the situation visually. I sent in a CSR. I've had a response to the CSR. And Tim kindly phoned me this morning and we had a long conversation. which I will ask Tim to share with you. But as well as what Tim has advised me of, I would like to seek support from board members to seek staff advice, taking into account what Tim has also got to say. So Tim, perhaps you might like to share your information.
Yeah, what we talked about was whether this was covered by part of the Coastal Pathway or not. And the information I have, yes, the Coastal Pathway Group has thought about seating along here, but we will not know our funding situation until the construction of Monks Bay is finished and we know whether all of the contingency has been used or whether there's some left in the future. So in about a year's time, the Coastal Pathway project may be in a position to do something here. But I think the problem is probably more urgent than that.
Thanks, Tim. Taking into account what Tim has suggested, I would also ask for the support from the board to seek staff advice, because if there's no funding left over from the Coastal Pathway project, it would be good if we could get an indication of that early on.
Yep. Cool. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Tim. The board are happy for that.
So what are you seeking here? Are you seeking staff advice on
seeking staff advice on the dilapidated state of some of the seating on the Esplanade at Sumner. Also, there's at least 12 to 15 seats that have not been replaced. You'll see on the photograph where the concrete stumps are there. The current seating is past its use by date, particularly for disabled people and those that are physically challenged.
So you're seeking staff advice on
I suggest that we seek staff advice
on measures available to address the state of repair and seating in the Esplanade area. Is that right?
Yeah.
This is something also that could be
on the replacement or repair and replacement.
Yeah. This is also something that you could look at through the board submission, annual plan submission, if there isn't funding, but we'll find that out.
Yeah.
Currently, it's health and safety issue.
Yep. Seating on the Esplanade. Yep. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, can I suggest that Alex, you use a couple of those photos in your next presentation to council?
Yeah, we can do that. Can we make a note of that, Arahano?
Yep, we'll make it an action. Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm happy to talk further with you, Alex, to fill in the blanks.
Awesome. That would be great. Thank you. All right, Michelle.
What I would just like to request, please, is an update on the Doris Lusk Reserve Play Art sculpture. So it's been in train for some time and it's on budget. But I would just like to get an update on that, please. So it was pretty good. That was under 30 seconds.
Very well done. Tim, did you still have another question or comment or something?
Yeah, I've got another matter to raise, and that was at our last meeting, I raised the issue of a house being flooded in Mount Pleasant, Mr. Wayne Rollinson's place, and we got staff advice in advance of that being put to the meeting, where staff talked through the issues, noted that it was a complicated situation because there's problems with water leaks all over the show, but that they would treat this one with some urgency, and they used that word urgency. In the board minutes, it says that the decision of the board was to support our resident here. He has heard nothing from the officers, and there's been no further contact with him by staff. I would like that chased up in some way, saying when you're going to do it. When you're going to act upon the urgency that were noted.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. We're all happy with that. Yep. Fabulous. Cool. Okay, so I'm just wondering, did anybody else get an email in regards to the Cave Road mast lighting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all did. Cool. So just got a bit of advice around that, and if everybody's in agreement that the board seeks staff advice on how the board's decision making on cave rock lights is being implemented. There are obviously some questions around that, and I don't believe that we
didn't make a decision.
We didn't make any decisions at all.
We didn't make any decisions on Cave Rock, so it was a staff delegation, and they came to us and gave a briefing, and we gave some feedback. But it was a staff delegation to do the lights and the lease, and so that's how that was done.
Right.
Yep. I looked into that too today, Alex, and yes, there was no decision.
Right. Well, we probably can't ask for information around that then.
Well, we can ask for a staff update on the lighting of the Cave Rock mast.
Yeah. So there's significant disagreement within the community. Some really love them, some don't think it's appropriate, some just wanted a couple of days. I don't think that's something that's going to be solved easily. And no one has actually, I've had some emails and some phone calls on both sides. So what I've been doing is just letting people know what the processes are if they want to take it further. And that means, coming to the board and asking us to do something, I guess. So I'm currently focused on letting people know what the processes are.
That's good. I think if there's concerns, people should come to the board and express it.
So are we wanting the update at this stage, or are we waiting and see, noting there's a concern and waiting and seeing at this stage?
I think an update would be useful.
Okay.
Because then it would be nice and public, just having an update on the installation of the lights and the lease and conditions. Yeah.
Cool.
So can I pose the question, we're seeking an update with a view to what?
Being able to have some good information so that we can share that with our communities, I guess.
So we're seeking that update to have the information, but we're not seeking the information as a board to make a decision.
I wouldn't think so at this point. I mean, I don't know. We haven't had anyone specifically ask us to do anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Does that make sense? I mean, I'm happy if you'd like to instigate something.
Let's get the update, see what was taken into account.
Yeah. That would be great, thank you. Yanni?
Thanks. Just two very quick things. I just thought, just to have a wee reflection on the 3rd anniversary, obviously March 15th, but also that it would be really nice for the board to extend an invite to the Linwood Mosque, the Islamic Centre Trust. I'm not sure there's an exact title, but it would be nice to extend an invite to their representatives to talk to us about how they are and what their plans are for the future. And also just on a separate issue around the whole maintenance thing, there's been a lot of arsons around the Woolston Cut. A lot of vegetation has been destroyed. Residents are pretty much beside themselves at the length of time it's taken to be fixed. I do know that our park rangers have, I think, done a walkabout with the residents who are concerned, but if we're going to council around the Esplanade, I just wonder if we could also just go, you can take some photos, I mean, I can send some photos through, but it's just this kind of general maintenance issue where we've had arsons and the shrubs and the grass is just being left for years before it gets addressed. So there's a lot of good stuff happening along the Heathcote-Apawaho River, and I know we've got a plan that we're working on, but also in the meantime, there is a bit of a desire for people to have some degree of maintenance to a decent decent standard. And just the final thing was the Kinaway Farm site. Someone has just approached me to say that they understand there's going to be it's going to be 7 shipping containers tall, and that's like a site of ecological significance right next to the river, with beautiful trees and wildlife. I don't know if that's accurate, but I just wondered if we could ask staff to get some advice on what the proposed use is for that Kinaway Farm site redevelopment, because I think it will be pretty shocking if that's what we get along the river, and it might be quite useful to find out, how accurate it is, and also see if there's any way we can have any influence. Thanks.
Cool. So is everyone happy with agreeable to staff looking into the Kinaway site?
So staff will only be able to do that if it's come to the council already. There may be proposals in place that haven't actually come to the council, but we can ask for any advice.
Yeah, I think just if I know the staff have been working through the subdivision process and have provided me with a landscape plan.
Okay.
But whether or not they're aware of the actual activity that's proposed. But I think, it may be that the board wishes to look at some greater degree of land use control around shipping containers being stacked 7 high, particularly where we've had incidents in the past where wind has actually knocked some of those containers off and fallen down as a health and safety issue, but also the amenity issue of the Port Hills and the ecological impact.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Was there anything else from anyone that they wanted to discuss, or are we good? Good, it seems. Fabulous. Okay. So, hold on, sorry, I have to go back to my other thing. It's quite hard doing it like this. Okay, well, that is us for this evening. Is it? Yes. So look, I want to say thank you to you all for this evening, and thank you for your patience with me as well, because I've not been feeling fabulous. But yeah, it's great to have you all, and again, great discussion around one of the things we are making decisions on tonight. So we will now finish with our karakia.
Kua mutu,
Mātou
mahi, mō tēnei wā. Mana ki tia, mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te aorangi.
Fabulous. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to staff. We're not too much over 7 o'clock. So
go and look after yourself, Alex.
Yes.
Thank you. Well
go and